You got us, Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, is there any more coming from your group?
Not that I know of.
Are you it?
I'm it.
You're it.
Yeah, right. You're
Well.
a sacrificial lamb, right?
They give you credit for attending the
The
meetings.
nosy one.
That's all right with us. We like that. It's nice when people are informed and there's no surprises. So that's always a good thing. Actually, we were just discussing some of the cost factors with the project and what should be included and what may not be included.
Are you finished with it, or are you gonna talk about it more once the meeting starts, or? what?
Actually, we just opened the meeting, so we just started the meeting. So I like to
Oh,
actually,
okay.
I actually like to start with it now and kind of move along real quick.
Yeah.
Because these are preliminary numbers that we just started with. It includes the cost within the right of way, and then the cost number for work in the home. And then we have some other numbers here to deal with, which would be designing and bidding and so forth. So for me, it's a little premature to say we're gonna do what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do this at this point. Whether or not we take on the whole package from the house to the street, the force main to the tie-in, or you people become responsible for the work in your house, the pump sets, the E1s that we were just talking about.
It's an E1?
It's an E1's a pump set that would be in your
Oh.
house that make it a force main, because the whole piping system will be a force main piping system, no gravity.
Which means that that pump is something that each owner will maintain.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not something we've discussed at great length at this point, which way it should go, which way it shouldn't go. Initially, we didn't want to be responsible for the work in the home. There are some advantages and disadvantages of that, but I think we need to have a little more in-depth discussion before we decide which way we're gonna go and what we're gonna do.
Typically, these pumps are outside units, so it's like a small, they're maybe 6 feet tall, buried in the ground, little cover over the top of it. And in cases like this where you're already on septic in existing homes, typically they retrofit it where the existing septic is, because you already have the pipe coming out of your home. They have to abandon the septic system anyways, so they install a pump system right there and then connect to the street.
Right under my deck.
I didn't realize it would be
And not
in the
many other
ground,
people.
as opposed to in the house.
They have an inside one, but the
Yeah,
outside is probably preferred
okay.
to get it out of the house, because
In
you have
case
to.
something happens.
Yeah, in case you can, it makes it easier. You have to abandon the septic system anyways. You're already digging it up. That's where the pipes are going. So it allows you don't have to work really in the house except for connecting electrical.
Yeah, but predominantly the systems will be at the back of the house and we're gonna be going out the front anyways. But again, it's a lot to discuss. We don't have all those numbers intact yet. We are working towards it. As you can tell, we're discussing it.
I know, I understand that it's premature in some sense.
A little bit, yep.
You know, and we've talked a couple of times
Sure.
about some of the options and people in the neighborhood as well. How much will there be any choice on the part of the owners, for example? Because some people have said, you know, you could run it from the front as opposed to the back. I mean, will some of those things be choices, or do you feel that you're going to come to the residents with a more complete package because you're bringing your knowledge and your connections with the engineer? I mean, do you have an idea of how that kind of works out, maybe from past experiences?
Yeah, this is a little bit different because it's a force main as compared to gravity. Gravity's a little bit easier and somewhat easier to pinpoint that target. And again, depending upon how far we're going to go with the whole thing. So, individually it could be a problem per house. It would be a general rule of thumb that we're probably going to end up flying with. But, each system that you're going to have to incur the cost of tying the plumbing back into this pump set will still be borne by the homeowner anyways. But I think we need to clarify where we're going to go with it at this point.
Is it generally accepted that the septic tank is removed?
No, it's not removed,
Crushed.
ma'am.
It has to be
It's either
abandoned.
crushed.
Abandoned, okay,
either
I
crushed
get
or
what you
filled,
say,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's part of the law. Board of Health's going to make that happen. So,
We had a
once you-
similar project up here where We had some residents that happened to use the tank and retrofit the tank with pumps with a duplex system, and then we had some that chose to do an E1, whether it was in the basement or outside. So it's kind of, I want to say, house specific. Depends on when you get out there and what you encounter. As you're saying, yours is under your deck or next to your deck. Well, that's something that somebody, right? So that's something that's, you may want to consider and what the options are. Where, other people it might be a little bit more straightforward.
Yeah, jobs I've been involved with, not in town here, but everything's handled on a case by case basis because, like you say, your pipe goes out the back, and it might be easier to just reverse the plumbing in the house and make it come out the front, and avoid that impact to your deck and other things like that. So
It depends if your
there's many
basement's-
ways to do
Sure,
it.
if your basement's finished or not finished, all those things come into play with what's gonna take
Well,
place.
that's what I was wondering,
Sure.
If there might be some variation and some choice.
Mhm.
For example, someone said to me, well, you can abandon your septic, get rid of your deck for now, and, these are the benefits of doing it this way. Or you can reroute it in your basement, which
Correct.
mine's finished. So, all of these things that used to be a positive now turn out can be kind of another hurdle in a way.
Oh, you're absolutely correct.
But, and
Yep.
then, because, I won't spend a lot of your time talking about just my particular situation. Because a lot of, I know my neighbors, the houses are all very similar.
Sure.
All of them have their septics in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Exactly.
so,
But we'll discuss that, but like I said, we're still in the planning stages, we have moved forward, we do have some engineering costs. They're not panned out for where we'd like them to be, and we certainly can't give you a number what we think it might cost at this point. It's a little premature for that, I think. But nonetheless, we'll get moving forward, and hopefully within a week or two, we'll have some more information for you.
just maybe two more questions.
Sure.
One is, would people have a choice to hook up or not?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, they do.
You'll pay the betterment regardless of that
You
fact.
pay the betterment regardless.
Yes, the public, as you might call, I might call it, right, the public work
Sure.
that's done on the street.
Yep.
But.
It's happened at various times, even on Main Street, you have people tied in, there was a bunch in the beginning, and then it kinda tapered off, and, it goes as people sell their homes or whatever they're gonna do, or the system fails, and, it's time to make that changeover.
So the connection is to the property line, so I mean, if you decided in 5 years, you're not gonna have to go back out and dig up part of the street.
Oh, no, that's correct, yeah,
It will be waiting there at the property line.
absolutely.
And, again, I realize it's preliminary, but do you have any thoughts about a timeline? Even a very, very general one, I'm not asking you for a week by week, blow by blow.
If we were to do it, it would be on the town meeting for this coming April.
It would be on the town meeting for
Yeah.
April.
I would say we'd have engineering finished, and
They have all
everything else,
winter
and
to
then, yep,
decide and everything.
the town has to vote to appropriate the money for us to spend it, and then once that money is appropriated, even though it doesn't affect the rest of the people in town,
I remember the last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
again, but if you're all there, then it should go fairly smoothly.
Yeah.
And then, it could start as early as spring.
Will there be a residents meeting beforehand?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely, there'll be
More than
many,
one.
many,
Yeah.
more than one.
I mean just the affected residents, not the whole town.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
no,
just-
yeah,
Affected
absolutely.
residents.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, we'll have to put a letter together, right?
Yeah.
For some
Yeah.
costs.
I
When
have
we
the
work,
letter.
Yeah.
when we come out with the final figures,
If you need help stuffing envelopes, just
Thank you, though.
We appreciate the offer.
All right, so, I know I said 2 questions and now I'm still talking.
okay, one more after that.
One more. I'll make it a complicated one now. Do you think you might have a meeting before Thanksgiving? For the affected residents?
I think that would, engineering, we get all the other figures.
I think we need to
You don't
have,
wanna get snowed out by blizzard now. You
No, I
schedule a
understand.
meeting,
No, well, yeah, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we'll have a meeting before then. Whether or not we'll have any more information for you people at that time,
We will meet. We
we
will
will
meet.
meet. I don't know if
I
we'll-
know, and I might be here.
And that's okay.
Very
You're welcome
good.
to come anytime.
Very good. More than welcome.
But hopefully by then, at our next meeting, we'll have a little more information for you.
Well, selfishly, see, I go away for the winter. That's why I'm coming, another reason I'm coming to these meetings now, because I'm trying to decide on.
Oh, you go to
what I'm-
Maine for the winter.
I go to Maine for the winter,
Yeah.
I bring my snowshoes, that's right. I can really get snowed in there,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna be hard to come to a meeting.
I'll pick you up on snow.
So, I'm trying to gather, I'm trying to be as knowledgeable as possible, because I know I'm gonna miss some of the action,
Yeah.
and just,
There won't be any, we'll have at least one meeting prior to anything that goes to town hall, probably two, I would imagine. It's a fairly good sized project, so, everybody will be enlightened and we'll answer all questions again when we get to that point, like we have in the past.
what if the residents, the affected residents say no? I mean, what if a majority of them say no?
In trouble?
Of what, Pike and Pandora?
Who's in trouble?
Well, if,
The other
well,
half
no,
of the
if,
majority.
well, the majority is the town meeting, that's where it ends up happening. So, those people are gonna pass it or not based on your input and the 60 other people's, 59 people's, input.
So,
meeting
in
that
other
night.
words, it, regardless of the meetings that you have with the affected residents and regardless of what they say,
Correct.
it will go to town meeting.
If-
And
if
that
it's-
will be
if-
the deciding.
If it's feasible.
If we have a majority vote,
If you have the majority vote,
Do
we're
we
gonna
have-
give you the price and then
You,
you'll vote with that.
Well, what if we don't have a majority?
You'll
Among
have to
the-
have a majority, people will return a census. When I send out the letter and say it costs $10,000 per, then people will come back and say yay or nay.
Right.
but
that's
at
a,
that
hy-
point, if those
that's
60
a hypothetical
people,
figure.
if 40 people
Please,
say they don't want
don't
it, then
say it's gonna
understand.
cost
And
ten
it's not-
thousand, right?
I'm not, I won't.
That was just a-
understand. That's better than
a
some of
number.
the other figures I've heard, so it's probably gonna be more than.
So in the initial phase, you'd need a majority of the people between the two streets to be in favor of it.
That's what I was trying to
Sure,
verbalize. That was the
Absolutely.
question I was trying to
It would be.
verbalize.
it's really up to the residents of, if they wanted to proceed or not.
You need 31 votes.
31 votes, that's right.
And it can still be 2 or 3 people at town meeting that could sway the whole town meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that happened the last time.
We've seen that,
We have,
Yeah.
yes. It's a few people get
Sure.
up with a very adamant point
Absolutely.
of view.
Yep.
And,
and the people that have actually already changed their septic systems and put new ones in, they've already spent the money, so for them to spend it again, it's usually a negative impact.
so did I overhear you saying that you may, recommend maybe engineer isn't the right word, but you may recommend a company that people could use from the street to the house, or is each person gonna be individually kind of, I mean, I don't interact with these kinds of people every day, so I don't really know who they are, you
It-
know?
it
Will
would be-
will you give like a list of local or?
Yeah, we can't give you one name, but we can give you a variety of names of people that actually do work in the town that are licensed for that.
But it would be beneficial, I would imagine, price-wise, if the majority of the homeowners got one company. They have all their equipment there, and
Yeah,
The whole thing?
right.
unless
A
someone
lot of
has
it's
a
common
preference.
sense.
So it looks at this time feasible, or it's still a little up in the air in terms of feasibility?
No, they're
No,
talking,
I think as far as
they're
feasibility,
talking
it
about
looks
this
good.
stuff.
I think there's feasibility, I think we're looking good. Come on.
Hi, we're Pandora Drive.
How you doing?
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Pipe Drive. You
I
want
know you are, yes. That's okay, I don't need us.
Yeah.
Just,
it? Well, we've been hashing it over, so.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought
So no,
was-
it looks favorable, it depends what the cost per house is, and I think we still need to do a little homework of what's gonna be covered and what's not. I mean, I don't think we have all our numbers yet to say it's gonna be $10,000 or $15,000 at this point, we don't have a good handle on that as of yet. We have some preliminary numbers from the engineering firm, and we'll go from there.
And what would, Are you sharing those numbers, or?
At this point, I'd like not to.
Okay.
I can, I mean, it's a public document, but, there's some things in here that are included in the cost that aren't necessarily something we wanna see, and what's gonna be the best for you people, and there'll be some options that will have to be made along the way, I think, so.
So how's it look? Does it look good, or is it look feasible, or?
I think it looks feasible, sure. Don?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it does.
We're ready to go to the town meeting with it in April.
We will be ready. Yeah. And we'll have a meeting with everybody on Pike and Pandora prior to that to let them know exactly what the costs are gonna be and what it's gonna entail.
Yeah, 'cause I think the last meeting, they said a letter would go out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It will.
that, would you know roughly when that would be?
Well, we have some numbers now that I think we can probably put into that letter. The letter's ready.
The letter's ready, I just didn't have a number to give
Oh,
you to
okay.
say
Okay,
it's gonna cost whatever per
Yeah.
individual household.
okay.
See, I didn't even know this meeting was gonna be tonight, so
Well,
my wife
I
found out
did, but
about it.
It's
But,
6:06, so that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
That's all right. We
Will
missed
you?
most
Can
of the meeting, that's good.
Will each household, for the main public part of it, that's gonna be in the street, will each household be paying the same amount, or will it depend on your individual frontage? Or will you just take the total amount and divide it by 60 households and say, okay,
Yeah.
you know, be nice
That's
to
what
each
we do.
other?
That's exactly what'll happen.
That's
It's the cost of the project divided by the number of homes.
Okay,
That sounds.
Yeah, it's just as fair and as easy as you can make it. Frontage sometimes gets a little messy. That is another methodology of doing it, but one we choose not to use. So it's just the number of homes and the cost of the project and what's included in the cost of the project.
And then we pay this town back, is that how?
That's correct, you have 20
Okay.
years
All right,
to pay that betterment back.
and that's put on the water bill, or do you get a separate
Tax
bill for
bill or
that?
something.
Tax bill.
Tax
Tax
bill.
bill.
And you'll have 30 days to make a decision, once we get the total cost.
Uh-huh,
It'll probably be like in November or whatever year the project's done. You'll have 30 days to make a decision whether you wanna pay it off in full, or you wanna
Yeah.
go the 20 or 5 or 10.
okay,
Um,
all right.
But you will
That's
have
good.
30 days to make that, and then that will go to the assessors, it'll be put on your tax bill.
All right. Anything else we need to know? No?
When the next, meeting's gonna be, the next letter's coming out,
We could actually set our next meeting now, it may help.
Up to you guys.
Charlie's blocking my calendar.
John,
Thanks, Charlie.
It's all the space we have here.
It is.
maybe that's, who's better?
I'd also
What is
cheer,
the
but you
holiday?
blocked the doorway.
For visitors, we got it all.
Right.
Oh,
No.
Wanna have it before the week of the 16th?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just gonna tell us.
They're gonna be
next
here.
week.
I
you
can pass
probably
the
wanna
word
try
around
to
the
avoid
neighborhood.
Thanksgiving week anyway, or
Yeah.
in part of Thanksgiving.
You know, for two?
I'm up
I know
for
all
2.
you guys have to go home
I'm
and
just
make,
nobody.
make Thanksgiving
Stop it.
dinner, so you
Let's have it on the 24th.
24th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's have the meeting on the 24th.
November 24th?
That'll work?
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank
And maybe
you.
we'll have a letter for you before then.
We
There's
definitely.
gonna be a letter coming out that, for the rest of the neighborhood?
Sure.
Yeah. Cause I'd like everybody to be here.
yeah, better have it a different.
Oh, yeah, we'll pick a
have-
different
we'll
one.
have the other one. We'll explain everything in detail and it'll be as plain as the
Clear
nose
as
in
it
your
can
face.
be.
It will be.
And maybe we can get the representative out here from the
Yeah.
one, the pump company, so
Yeah.
if anybody has any questions on that portion of the project.
Do you think there would be more than one pump option, or would you recommend one, or you don't wanna, I understand if you wanna let people make their own decisions, but,
Again, I think it's a case-by-case basis,
Mm.
you know?
Okay.
I mean, the department's always, had this as a standard, if you will, but there's been cases where we've
Type of pump.
retrofitted tanks,
What are you talking about, pump?
a grinder pump, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pump.
From the property to the main.
So, I mean, I just had a system put in 7 years ago. It's all new stuff, and they're new tanks and everything, but the tank is bigger than what you would recommend. But I mean, I think it still could be used as the,
Right.
you know,
As a chamber.
Yeah, and that's something
Yeah.
similar that happened on another
Yeah.
project. We had a gentleman that had the same scenario. He wanted to use the tank and just retrofitted the tank with some pumps.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's, you know, instead of doing it all, I mean, it cost, I forget what the hell we
You know,
spent for it.
I mean, those are some of the small things, because then you're gonna go around the whole house, and that's just some of the smaller details we haven't worked out yet, is, you know, on a case by case, if it goes out the back, you wanna use your chamber,
Yeah,
or we include maybe in the scope of the project, the pumps, in the ground.
my son's a plumber, I mean, he could do everything right to the street,
Yeah, no, I understand.
you know,
Well, actually, after 10 feet out, you can't, but that's okay.
after 10 feet out of the pump, out of
10
the
feet,
the
after
tank.
10 feet out of the building,
Out of the
that's,
building.
out of the building, that's it.
Okay.
I mean, by law,
Yeah,
that's what it is. I'm a licensed plumber, so,
After 10 feet, it's a job for whom?
a drain layer.
Drain layer that
A drain.
we
Yeah.
have people that have applied for drain layers licenses, they pay a fee every single year, and those are the ones
so what if my son's got that?
that we can recommend, but
You can
You
put in
get
his
some of the-
application, he might.
Go for the whole neighborhood.
yeah, get the whole neighborhood. There you go, we're creating jobs in Groveland.
Make it easy for everybody.
The guy doesn't want,
He sells 10, you get one free.
There you go.
34 years old, he don't want no more, he got loaded with work, loaded with
Understand.
Well,
Okay,
thank you, and I know that it was further down on the agenda, so thank you for moving that.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
We can come in and get the information and let you
We
get on
appreciate you
with the
coming in.
business.
Thanks for being patient.
yeah,
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
take care,
Take
have
care.
a good night. All right, I'd like to skip, all the rest of the stuff on the agenda and actually move to vote to go into
Pat, I
executive
missed out
session.
about the envelope.
So,
gonna go
I'd
into
like to vote to go
executive
into
session?
Executive session based on, what was the article?
You have the book.
I do. Go home page, for convening for executive session, number 8, to consider interview applicants for employment, preliminary screening. An open meeting will be detrimental to the effect of obtaining qualified applicants. So based on that, I'd like to take a vote to go into executive session. Jack?
Yes.
Jim Sheehan? Yes.
Yes.
Charlie? How are you?
Good.
There you go.
What's a
So-
good word?
Well, we did have a good meeting with Natural Heritage a week ago Friday.
Someone's gonna fold it, sure.
And it sounded like they're almost ready to release the money. So I think this is the $120,000 turtle mitigation fund that's going towards purchasing Mattingly. But we found out that it doesn't expire for 3 years, not 2 years, so there's really no worry about,
Your pen, Mike?
yeah, thank you.
I'll steal it, those are expensive.
So, we were originally thinking that we would use the $120,000 towards Angelini, but they can extend that, and it's not gonna expire for another year longer, so there's no need to do that. Plus Denise told us that we can't do that anyway, so,
I would imagine there'd be a problem at this point.
yeah.
Okay.
So that doesn't really, the question, they sound like they're ready to approve those funds as soon as they get some more. What are they waiting for on that 120K? It didn't sound like very much.
I think she was passing it all by their attorney to make sure that
That's right.
that everything was good to go, and she was worried about how we might want to placehold the land,
Yeah.
the mitigation land
Right.
that's out there, and,
Right.
and doing a what is it, a DR instead of a CR?
Yeah, in the deed, the
Declaration.
deed restriction.
Yeah.
To hold it so that the conservation restriction won't hold this whole thing up.
Okay.
So really, the bottom line is that I think Angelini could be purchased as soon as the title search is done, which I don't know, I haven't heard. I'll ask Nancy tonight when I go in there when that's gonna be done. And then we could buy Angelini's, because I know that he's dying for us to complete this thing.
It's been a long process.
So that would be good news for him.
Mhm.
And the only thing that I think you guys need to be comfortable with is that the conservation restriction, which is gonna talk about the water rights and everything else, won't be in place when we buy Angelini. So we have to make all have to make a commitment to completing that and making sure everybody's happy with it. Which,
Well, that's what we're waiting for too, because she wanted me to send that off to Jim Persky, right?
yes, right.
So once she gets me that,
Yeah.
I'll send it to Jim. And, oh, the other thing was the holdup. Remember, she was worried, well, she had asked if it could be done as a reimbursement, and we said no, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be an
right.
escrow, so.
Right.
Okay.
So, I think we're in a pretty good position as far as Angelini's is concerned.
And the well location and placement's not an issue? Not gonna be down the road?
You want as much flexibility as you can get.
Correct.
And I don't think that she cares about that so much. She's willing to put it in there so that it gets where it is in the mitigation land will be decided in the future. It doesn't need to be decided now. She thinks that's a better route because things may change as far as what the land is like, and so it's crazy if we say, try to hard code it in right now. So
I
she's
understand
all
we
right
wanted
with that.
flexibility. I wasn't sure that I wanted to go through mitigation again with the well sites or possible 2 well sites that could be on that property.
Right.
Well, either we'd have to do it now or then, and since we don't know exactly where they're gonna be, that's why she thinks that it's probably better in the long run to do it at the time.
My only problem with that,
It'll give them a stronger foothold later than now, wouldn't it?
You mean the turtles?
yes,
Well, maybe, but it also there may be more land available to use for mitigation later on than there is now. Cause some of the land, I don't know, half of Angelini's is not useful for mitigation purposes because of the stuff that's growing there. But, after he does the gravel and loam removal and stuff is replanted there, perhaps there'll be more mitigation land available to use, so.
well, the only problem I have is that the people talking here at this table,
Yeah, I'm
in
gonna
10
be
years from now,
the
may
same
not be
people.
at the table.
Yes, I know, right. But I don't think the problem is going to be in the town of Groveland. If anything, it would be with natural heritage. What are they gonna say?
And what are they going to say? They could say, oh no, we found more turtles, we found salamanders, we found everything there.
Mhm.
You can't put any wells here.
Mhm.
Now we've got the pipe and the wire to nowhere.
Well, the fact is, the turtles made it to the solar field, so
Right,
we're on the other side of it.
yeah, I know.
It's a no-brainer. We're gonna have that same issue again.
So what do you wanna do? What do you think?
Well, I thought there was gonna be enough trade-off between some of Mattingly's property and the rest of it that we wouldn't have to have that same order of conditions on Angelini's property for 2 future wells, or 2 possible sites that are flexible. I understand that's a lot to ask for. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, but I mean,
I think that where you have the well placement, I'm not sure where you have the well placement on Angelini's is even in the turtle habitat
And
now.
one of the sites, it is not.
Yeah, right,
it is.
right.
So it's almost a moot point except for the 400-foot radius.
Hmm.
All I can say is trying to figure out that mitigation right now. Seems like we're beating a dead dog, and they don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, that's what the impression I get is they don't
Yeah.
wanna do
They
it.
definitely don't want to do it. Now, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying it's, they're saying it's very hard to predict that impact at this point, you know, and you don't even know where they're going. And I think that's why they wanna nail it down to only a certain amount of acreage. You know, I mean, I'm open, you know, for how you might think, we go about it, but it just seems, Woody also agreed that would be the only way to go, or seemed to be the easiest way to go.
What?
It would certainly be the easiest way to
The
go.
placeholder, just a placeholder, and not trying to mitigate that right now. I mean, you're really
tell
not
ya.
gonna know until you go and do the project.
That's true.
And she's under the impression that there is enough land there for mitigation purposes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But she's
Down
not
the
gonna
road,
be there.
Yeah.
No, she isn't, but
So, I mean, it's different people, and,
The only thing that I would keep in mind is the mitigation land that's out there on the books is for the town of Groveland.
Yeah.
So in 10, 20 years, when you go to do this project, if that's a bank that's sitting there, and, the only thing I would say to maybe protect the interests of the department in that, you may wanna link that to that particular project somehow.
yeah, well, that would be as easy as putting a statement in the CR that says, unused land or all open space land is open for mitigation purposes for water development. Put that extra line in there, I would imagine.
At least it's a caveat to kinda
how many of the
address it
acres,
somewhat.
The fact of the matter is,
Of,
if we try to mitigate that now, we're
Jim's
gonna be
land.
months and months and months down the road.
how much of the,
Yeah, Jim. It's just- it
in
just
that
seems like-
project, do they want for Angelini's? How much land usage?
For,
Bill gets done with all his gravel removal, level
Yeah.
finishes it off,
yeah,
plants grass, whatever,
Yeah.
okay? Now, that's gonna be butting up against, Jim's land that the
Yeah.
town's bought already,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
How can we be guaranteed that they're not gonna take any of the Angelini land to build another soccer field?
Oh,
or
they
baseball?
can't because of that conservation restriction. That conservation restriction says the only thing that we can do with those two properties is they're there for passive recreation, open space, and water development and quality assurance. That's it. That's the only purpose that those two properties can be used for. I'm not worried about that at all because they have the conservation restriction on them. Now, the other thing that we could do, which we had brought this up with her, she didn't really go either way, is we could ask the selectmen to add some of Bussing's property to the conservation restriction so that not all of Bussing's land would be unprotected like it is. So that would give us more property to use for mitigation
Bank.
purposes, yeah. But, we're gonna have to convince them that we need to do it. And I don't know, what they're gonna think about that.
Mm.
How much of it is turtle mitigation quality land?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, you can't just use.
Not much. Not much, it was stripped.
Right.
Scrub pine, stuff out there like that, they don't turtle.
Have they purchased, Bussing's property? Yes. Mattingly is,
What's with Manley's?
Well, Mattingly, we're still waiting for that $120,000 release and the other federal funds, which may not come. I estimate it might be 2 to 10 weeks before we get that money. So we can't buy it until they tell us to, the federal, that
for the
federal
grant money that you applied for?
Yeah.
What does it look like? Does it look good or bad?
Oh, yeah, no, it looks good. I think we're gonna get it, it's just,
There's no plan B if case plan A?
oh, if Plan B, we can still buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like we don't have a lot of choice at this point.
We don't.
We'll have to mitigate it later on.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to tie it though to the,
I think, yeah, there should be some language in there. if we have to send it over for Persky to review, then we should make sure that in his review that that's something that ties that mitigation back into water and sewer.
So we should be, I can send, Eve a potential line, you know, that says, you know, we want the mitigation for water and quality and development, so get that in there right now before she sends it off to him.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
Makes sense.
So do you think that you wanna pursue with the selectmen setting aside any Bussing's property or not bother?
I don't think, I see nothing wrong in at least approaching them.
Ask
tell
the
'em
question.
And ask the question.
Would they be willing?
There's no stupid question,
Yeah, right.
so if we ask the question, the worst they can say is no,
Mm.
and we can say, okay, this is what we have, this is the circumstance we're in, we wouldn't be here unless we were put in this circumstance.
Mm.
And we just wanna make sure the citizens of Groveland get quality water,
Right.
and enough of it.
How much land would you put in?
Well, I suspect it would only be, you know, maybe a few acres on either side. Like we might get 10 acres out of it, 10 out of the 60. They might go for that. And that would give us a little extra insurance on the mitigation. And on the edges, no active recreation is gonna go on that far edge over by Angelini's property or the far edge over by Mattingly's property,
Yeah.
so
No, I agree.
I can say, you know, can we set aside, would they be willing, I'll just ask the question tonight, would they be willing to set aside 5 or 10 acres out of the property,
Yeah.
put it in the CR specifically, that it's for mitigation?
Sounds good.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
No, it's worth it.
Tell him we'll support you.
Good luck, Mike, religious spirit.
Godspeed.
That's what I said, to let the guy that is into the forum.
Okay, so we're getting closer. It's
Yeah,
getting closer.
no,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, actually it
it's
is.
good news, really,
It
you
is.
know,
Yeah, no, it is.
Been a lot of work.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure that, our friend Bill will be, happy when it all comes to be.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, like you said, it's really the title work, right?
Yeah,
This point?
yeah,
Really.
and I'd be surprised if it isn't done, because I know they've been doing it for a few weeks. All right,
There's a little history of that property, so
yeah,
it's good.
here's your pen.
Michael, thank you for coming
All
in.
right,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Have a good night. Okay. Superintendent's report.
We just finished up hydrant flushing. That went well. Actually, probably shaved about a week off what we did last session.
Getting easier?
Yeah, well, we
Should
did.
be getting
Yeah,
easier.
we omitted about 6 gates if they were turning downtown that seemed to be kind of redundant. We didn't really need to do that. And then we kind of figured out, as far as the unidirectional flushing program, tightening in the areas of what we're isolating during that night in that flushing. We'd gone out to a broader range, which didn't seem to help the areas up by South Groveland, by the fire station. What's that up there? Highland Ave. No, Highland.
Lannon Ave? It's
No.
not the fire station.
One is by the
Washington
fire
Street,
station.
Yeah, Lannon Ave, and the one that's up on the hill there.
Pond Street.
Yeah, but they got dried up out there. Anyways.
Was there any,
Oh, Coleman.
Coleman Road.
Yeah, it was the other one. But anyways,
It's on Mill Street.
God.
it has a name, not
It's
another.
a little cul-de-sac up the top.
Benjamin and them?
I can't think of it. Save me. But
What's the main street, Washington?
yeah. Off of Washington.
Off of Washington Center,
Yeah.
on Center Street, okay.
Heading out that way. up on the hill, Hillview,
Oh, Hillview.
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 No, okay.
Two houses.
Get it eventually.
A higher point in town. than
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So I mean, the guys did a good job at working it out. I think we got a lot of the kinks worked out of it anyways. And the calls seem to be pretty minimal. I don't seem to have as many as we did last time.
That was my next question. Do we get many calls, dirty
We
water?
always get
No.
calls, but
Not too bad.
it wasn't too bad. I mean, we'll see how things go after, because the last time we flushed it, it seemed to linger a little bit, which was not the norm. So I think they kept everything behind them and worked and kept the clean water behind them and kept going. So
Good, good.
seemed to work out all right. And then right after that, immediately we did leak detection, and we did come up with a leak at Broad in Maine, right in front of the daycare. So we're going to meet tomorrow morning out there with the consultant, Kyle Sauber, and go over that leak. He thinks it's about 15 gallons a minute, so it's a pretty good sized leak. And this is the area where, when the Main Street project was done, they ran a 8-inch bypass from the 12 over to the 6-inch, and that runs in between the two sections of Broad Street that connect to Main. And it's noisy there. So what we're gonna do, we've checked all the gates once. We're gonna recheck them again before we actually dig a hole.
Make sure that-
But we opened them up and then we shut them back down, because this is a point between the low side and the high side in the system where it's isolated.
Junk could get caught in between.
Yeah, I don't quite know what's going on, but they're supposed to be cut and capped in that area. I'm expecting to find out that something's leaking, obviously down by where it's cut and capped, and we really won't know until we excavate it and check it out. But I have faith in Carl. He's been doing it for a long time, and but we just want to triple check, if you will.
Where do you think the water could be going?
There's a stream right next to it.
Yeah,
It isn't
right across
surfacing.
there,
Yeah, there is a stream right next to it. So, and I asked the guys today if they grab a sample, see if there's some fluoride. It could be so diluted that we're not going to pick it up. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point. You would think that would surface, but sometimes they don't. So, I mean, this is, I don't know. Well, think if it was right on the gate, it'd be coming out of the gate box.
Yeah.
But it's not. So. We'll just have to.
What does that tie into? Does that tie into the daycare?
It's right in that area, but there's a separation there, so that the water main that is on our side of Main Street, where we sit, is the low pressure main, and that stops and is cut and capped at that area where there's a leak. So the high side is fed across the 12-inch and ties into the 6-inch, which makes that the high side now. And something we should consider is Balch Avenue is one of the streets that hasn't been completed for the when that Main Street project was done. So when they ran the new 12-inch main, they stubbed it off, and they left a piece of 8-inch down the bottom of the road. So half of that the top section is on the high side. The bottom section is actually on the low side. So years ago, they started with the 8-inch down the road, but stopped. So we really should if we complete that loop and come down and tie into it, we can really essentially cut and cap the 8-inch out in front of us, because all the services have been tied over to the 12-inch. And another project that's going to happen in the spring or sometime next year, I'll clarify with Bobby, is they're going to resurface and redo Governors. Governors is on a CIP list for an older main. We don't have a lot of problems out there, but we've had some breaks.
Yeah.
So we may want to consider, upgrading that before the road goes in, and also possibly look at the sewer, because half the road's sewered and half of it isn't. There's some things to consider out there.
Yeah, certainly is.
So whether it's an effort that, maybe we handle some of the in-house, handle some of the work, Balch in-house, but Governors, we go out to bid, or we bid the whole project.
Yeah.
But But at a minimum, we're gonna address the leak, obviously.
I'm gonna have to run, gentlemen.
Okay,
I
Okay.
apologize, let me know what,
we will.
what you need from me.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good enough, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
What else do we have?
Aye, aye, work.
That's the man's, leave him right there. Aye, work.
Stay for a couple minutes.
Ah,
7:30, I have to be there, so.
Which I'm sorry, we should have jumped right to
Yeah,
that.
we should.
Well, the II work, we have some funds set aside. Last we left off, I think we talked about how we might want to put that out to bid, or an RFQ, or an RFP, or, and what areas we might wanna concentrate on. So, I don't know if we just wanna use the consultant that we always typically use for this work, or we wanna actually go out and put something together and seek bids.
So you have money to do investigation, that's what you wanna do, find, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have funds.
How much money do we have?
How much we-
Hundred,
100,000.
100,000.
100,000.
100,000.
And you'd wanna do the investigation probably in the spring,
Mhm.
because the groundwater's probably pretty low right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we wanna do the mains before we go off the stubs, off of the mains? Anything's wrong with mains,
Well, I mean, I guess I'd be open to, where we should start, where we could best put that money to, get the best bang for our buck, really.
Have you done anything yet?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
Zero,
So no flow monitoring, nothing at all?
nothing. This is our first step.
how much will 100,000 get us? Don't say 2 houses.
No, you can do quite a bit with it, I would think, it depends what you, if I was doing, I'd have to look at a map of your system and see what,
Yeah.
how it's all set up. But typically, we either do continuous flow monitoring to try and figure out what the flows are. And I imagine you're looking for both infiltration and inflow.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you wanna do things really on the cheap, I'd look at a map and, break it down into key manholes, and you'd have a company come out at night and say, we're gonna do nighttime flow monitoring during the high groundwater period, when it's not raining, and, quantify what's coming from different ways, so if you can say, geez, this pipe is dry, we're not gonna waste any time over there, this one's got a ton of flow, and you break it down based on, gallons per day per inch mile of pipe, you know where the biggest bang for the buck is and where to chase it. So that's that cheap stuff, to have somebody come out for a couple nights and open manhole, where your guys could even do it themselves with very minimal training and, weeder.
Yeah.
Narrow things down, and then you do more expensive stuff like TV inspection to actually find the leaks and figure out what pipes have to be rehabbed and things like that.
So you think we could do some of that preliminary work prior to actually going out?
You could, yeah. There's a million ways to do it. I'm happy to sit down with you and
Okay.
look at a map and whatever else,
Okay.
whatever
Yeah.
you wanna do.
Maybe it's something our guys can pick up on if we do have a company come in and
Yeah.
they watch, learn by watching and exactly which is the pipes to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, it would help to have an idea of where you wanna go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously, you can look at the wettest areas, the oldest pipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright.
And then focus it that way. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that would be a lot of basically Main Street, really.
Main
Yeah,
Street,
sure would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds
I
like a
look forward to
plan.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds
Be in
like-
touch.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Good.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Engineering we did on Pandora, right?
I'm done with Pandora yet. I have a couple questions. Actually, I don't know why I thought this, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. I don't know how you feel about it, but, I didn't realize a pump set would go in the ground out in front of the house. I just assumed it would be in the house.
Yeah, there's just multiple ways to do it.
We've
Well,
never,
I'm-
we've never had it included in the projects.
Well, we've only done one small project with those pumps anyways.
Yeah.
Were they outside or inside?
Yeah, you had a private project, Stonebridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had nothing.
That they have a little bit of a pressure main up there, which is the terminal manhole, gravity manhole that we tie into for this project. And then we have this little Main Street project in front of Broad Street where we're talking about the leak.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking about that out there. And what I've witnessed out there, I've witnessed a unit going right inside, I've witnessed an outdoor unit, and I've witnessed a retrofit. So there's been a retrofit out there also where we had a tank, a pump panel was designed,
Suitable for that.
and the contractor submitted a pump. We reviewed that pump and put it up against the E1, if you will, for a benchmark, and then the decision was made that job could go forward like that. So, that's what I've seen being here for 6 years so far.
No, my point would be is laying the force main and leaving the laterals on the property, or including E1 pump in the ground for them. You know what I mean? And then have them do that tie-in from their house to that point, which would also include probably electricity, I would assume.
Yeah, I guess you would have, at that point, you would, would there be a kind of boilerplate location of where they would all go, or? No, I see what you're saying.
And, for some reason, once I break the plane of the customer's house, to me that's so different per house and what you're gonna run into. You know what I mean? And it would give them something very close to using as gravity sewer. At least there too, the pump set that's in the ground that's consistent. They're all the same thing, same head, same design. I don't know
If they could all fit grade, yeah.
I don't know if that has merit or not. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know.
I originally talked about. I know we talked about it originally. We weren't really in favor of doing that, but I guess I never thought of the idea of having it located exterior to the home and having no gravity to the tank, which makes a lot of sense because it gives you a little capacity. If something happened.
Yeah. I know if I had to have the option, I'd have it outside.
Yeah, I would too.
I wouldn't want it in my house, but there are people that do have it. Maybe they don't have that option, but.
But this price that they gave us, and preliminary pricing they gave us, are the two numbers including the E1 pump?
Yes. So that second number, which is the number that's not within the right of way, the work that scope that's not within the right of way. I contacted the consultant tonight, and I said, so this includes the pumps? And he said, yeah. I said, and all the piping? Yeah, and I'm assuming all the engineering. So.
And electrical.
Right. Now the fact that, Dave looked at that number and he thought it was a little suspect, and some of the answers that I got, I might want to think it was a good choice that we dig at this a little bit more. It's just a number that we just got tonight.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't happy with just giving a lot of information out tonight. All it does is kind of cloud the water a little bit, and it would be as precise for the customer as we can,
Yeah, it would be unfair to them to, obviously if we nail down the number to the property line and then, they should have an idea of what the rest of it's going to cost them.
Yeah.
Or whether it should be included or not included.
Exactly, I agree.
So,
I just, with it included, I just think we're talking about a lot of variables. That's all.
I know.
And then and how many is everybody going to buy into that?
I know, but I look at the woman, the representative coming tonight, and she's apprehensive. She's got questions. I mean, you're gonna have that no matter where you are. No matter if you're even laying gravity, it's still gonna be the same. But I understand putting the pumps in a part of the project is gonna be, difficult.
What
A
if they
bit
don't
difficult.
hook up right away?
That's I don't know.
But at that point, if it's that much money per house, maybe they'd want it included in the 20-year payback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would have to be, everybody would be all in at that point, so you wouldn't have the option of, you're gonna do it or no, you're not, right?
Or simply maybe it's at the point where, I don't know if we've ever done this before, but give them an option. Here's the price, and you put the pumps in, or we put the pumps in as a standard throughout the 60 homes.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
So give them two options.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean,
I think in a perfect world, if you could just say, just like almost having a stub there, say, well, instead of the stub, we're just providing a pump for you.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? So we're talking electrical would be there, everything would be there, ready to go.
Yeah.
They would just have to connect A to B.
I mean, cause you gotta figure 60 homes have to do that,
Correct, yeah.
right? I just never, I mean, to me, it makes sense, and a lot easier to do it outside than it would be to certainly inside
Inside.
the house. Get 60 people doing 60 different things, or a possibility thereof.
I agree. I mean, I think that's,
There would be a better number.
Well,
Or
and
the
I
people with
looked
the
at it
same-
from another point, contractor puts it in the ground, it's a warranty for a year, right? If anything goes wrong, it kinda covers all the nuts and bolts that could possibly or potentially be a problem for a year, and they're off and running.
Then again, do you go and you give the option of, we'll bring the stub to your property, that's one price, and then we'll do the whole thing, and you'll hook up, because I don't know whether she wants it or not, she may want the option of just not hooking
being
up.
able to give them a vote for both.
Right,
Yeah.
that way there they
I'd like to, that other number, you know? That, it seems to me that the first number that's all the work and the right of way is probably a pretty straightforward number.
Mhm.
That other number,
is,
might not be as straightforward, that's
Mhm.
all. And I guess we just wanna make sure that our consultant is giving us a good number.
Mm.
And we'll know when you go out to bid, right?
would the
You know, but
consultant,
I'd rather discuss that with them a little more in depth,
Oh, absolutely.
or ask that question now before
Yeah.
we go too far.
the consultant can contact the company and get the price for 60.
Oh,
60 units.
he's already offered up, I don't know if you were here when I talked about it, but the representative will come out from E1. And actually, he'll talk to the people, let them know about the product, you know.
Yeah, you did say that to the lady.
Yeah, so
You did
so
mention
it'll,
that to the lady that.
you know, it is an option. I guess we just wanna make sure that, you know, they have a good number, that's all. If we're gonna go that route.
Okay,
And, you know, I could contact Brian tomorrow and say, you know, we really wanna make sure that this number is polished to the point where you know, we're gonna put a letter together and these are numbers that we're gonna use, so we make sure
yeah, we don't
everything's
want
covered.
anything hidden.
Right, now, of course, there's no inspectional services out here, so that'd be something that we would either do in-house or how we deal with that. It should be pretty straightforward. It's a lot of homes.
Would we want the responsibility of doing that? Or would we
That's a good
want?
question.
We would want, I would feel myself, I'd feel if we put it in the lap of the company, okay, that was doing it, he'd take care of all 60, other than, God forbid, you have two guys out there and now you got a break, you gotta go away, nobody's checking and someone
Or you could
doesn't
do a third party, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, there are companies out there that just provide inspectional services. I mean, you know, one thing that Brian mentioned, he just thought that it would be a little excessive as far as cost, but you build it in. You know, if you're gonna use them, in other words, they're at a minimum of $75 an hour for inspectional services.
which
What
is
is a
outside,
typical E1 cost to put in, cost of an E1? Do we
I
know?
think the E1, I wanna say it's like $1,100, but I could be just totally off on that, to be honest with you. I don't even, you know, because what happens is, for one, we don't do a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then usually it's the contractor that deals with all that. I can tell you that I've had, you know, different opinions. Right? It's Ford and Chevy,
Yeah.
everything's different. No, really, I mean, it just comes down to, like, the system that I keep going back to is the one that the guy had the tank outside the house. And he bought pumps and put a control panel and all that. Well, that contractor felt, you know what, that system was 10 times better than what E1 had. Just because of what he's seen and dealt with their pump system compared to these pumps that he put into that tank. It's just it's an opinion, that's all.
yeah,
Well, it is, you know, and certainly if it was me personally, I would probably I'd probably build my own.
Yeah.
I probably would do that, so, you know, I think it was Mr. Carlson. You know, I had, his son's a plumber and, you know, I mean, I understand that.
Mhm.
Maybe it makes more sense just to do the force main to the property line and each individual one's
respond to the way they want
response
to.
the way they want to. I don't know, we're just throwing it out for discussion, I think.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I just think, you know, how much are we gonna bear responsibility for those pumps when they're in after the fact? That's my concern.
None.
Well, that's what, you know,
It's the homeowner's property.
right.
Well, no, the contractor, you'd have to make sure that it was
Right,
warranted
yeah.
for construction for a year's period of
And
time.
he would
for-
give that warranty to the homeowner, and when the homeowner says, I got a problem, we'd respond,
Mm-hmm.
say, well, it isn't with our system, it's with your pump.
Yeah.
And at that time, the homeowner would have to call the pump company in and have it repaired or replaced, whatever it needed to be. Because
And
of
they
the,
hand us, if it wasn't, then it'd be their responsibility right out of the gate, and
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, I'll be honest with you, we haven't received any calls regarding the E1s that are out there because I think they know that that's their responsibility.
sure.
So I really have nothing to feed back on and
Yeah.
say, yes, it's a good, no, it's not.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
firsthand.
because the
Right.
one down back of me, just two of them down back of me, one on each side, and they've had them service themselves.
Yeah, there's some off School Street also, going up to Wilbur.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the only question they ever had about those is when they sell.
Yeah.
People are a little concerned who's responsible and stuff.
Oh, when they sell?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we, you know, if we're not gonna be, you know, tied to the, you know, if we're gonna keep the same policy that it's obviously the responsibility of the homeowner, and it gives them a better bulk buying power,
Yeah,
then that's, you know, that's gonna, something that the residents wanna take advantage of, then
Yeah.
it's just, you know, just more moving parts, that's all it comes down to.
I'd rather, we'll put the main system in, that's what it's gonna cost you. And hooking it up is your responsibility.
Well, it gives them the option of, yes, I wanna do it now, or no, I don't.
Right,
Yeah.
and there's gonna be
Because
one or
doing it
two,
now is gonna cost them a few dollars.
Yeah.
But regardless of that fact, we need to have a real number of
Yeah.
what that's gonna be, so when we talk to them, we know.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually ought to at least tighten it up with Brian a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
I'll
so we
check
can
on that
offer
first thing tomorrow.
oranges, apples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, beautiful.
CIP,
CIP was just what I touched on with governors.
Yeah.
You know, to expand on that, you know, we always keep talking about Main Street and that area down in there. And that would be a fairly large project.
yeah, we-
So, I could certainly sharpen the pencil on what we have in our CIP plan right now for our top 5 list, and we can look at those and discuss whether it's something that we, you know, we wanna go forward with, or we just kinda, what projects we're gonna really look at.
I think we need to have a top 5 list for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
That way they'll know. You got some heavy hitters in the top 5 list.
Yeah, there's some money out there for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it's needed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I feel if we took care of those
Top 5.
top 5, I you know, the system's obviously gonna benefit from it.
Yeah.
And,
But
you
we
know,
know-
it's gonna relate to cost within the rate, but it's also going to, you know, we've got some problem areas out there that hopefully would get addressed, and once those are upgraded, then, you know, cause overall, we don't get a lot of complaints.
I know, but I mean, if you start looking at that and water main break repairs.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely,
what a break repair costs,
sure.
and if you're doing 3 or 4 of them on a
Yeah,
specific
winter,
ones around.
yeah.
Oh, it's time.
Yeah.
It's
I
time.
mean, Main Street is beyond it.
Yeah.
The town got its money out of Main Street. That's, you know, it's time to upgrade that.
Okay, so top 5. Okay, 97?
I believe it's still set. I need to call the consultant, but I believe they're still, I haven't talked to Bobby about it, but as far as I know, they're at 100% submittal, and I believe they're gonna be going out over the winter for the project. I'll confirm it.
Okay.
I've heard this for 3 years.
Yeah, I know. But it is, you know, 100% complete, so, as far as engineering is concerned, so I don't think there's any more engineering that needs to be done.
If they spent the money on it, they gotta do it. I assume at this point.
The scope has changed overall
Yeah.
from what originally it was going to be, but
Oh,
the
yeah,
project's still there.
yeah.
That's it?
Ever since, Keno,
Believe
ever
so.
since Fox 25 went to Haverhill, We've had no more calls about that, cause it went all over the TVs and everything about.
Oh,
the
I
sewer.
wasn't, I'm ignorant to it, I didn't even realize they went over there,
Yeah,
really.
they were on Fox 25.
When was that?
That was, 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And why do
really?
you think that happened?
They broadcasted because people that were complaining about this.
Oh my God, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago on a Saturday morning, I went to Donuts, and at first I couldn't. And I was in my truck and the windows open. At first I couldn't believe it. And I went, well, I obviously know what that is. You know what I mean? And they just. And by the time I got down the bottom of the hill by Salisbury's and I got to Main Street, it was overwhelming. I mean, like
Bad.
I was in a plant today in Nashua. I'm telling you,
It was better.
way worse than the plant, and you know, when I smoked down in the aeroplane, so it was very bad. So apparently they're working towards repairing that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some calls, yeah, actually
Yeah.
quite a few calls,
You
quite
couldn't
honestly.
even open the windows here.
See, I don't get it at my house.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it was horrible here.
Really, that's funny.
We had our guys popping covers,
Yeah, 'cause we thought it
because
was
we
us.
thought we maybe might have had a backup, I mean, nobody was complaining about it being in the home.
Oh,
Yeah.
But we thought maybe there was some backups in the system.
Yeah.
Guys popped some covers and it wasn't it, and then lo and behold, that's what it was. Seemed to be in the morning mostly.
Yeah.
yeah. It was when the
On that particular morning, it was, you could tell there was a storm coming. The fog was down. And, you know, and it just,
Perfect recipe.
oh my goodness gracious! When I tell you it was bad,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was very bad. Hey, motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.